Recording in progress. Oh, wow, that is a really not good view. Dun, 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 dun. All right, everybody. Well, yeah, I thought about you when I heard about this, Marcelo.
That was not me.
I brought it.
Oh, you brought it?
I mean, I'm one of the few people who actually gets a real newspaper, but that just fell in line with what we were been reading.
Yeah.
And then the little thing about Paxton, we liked it. Yeah, that was the part of it.
But you did post something on social media about James Dobson, didn't you?
Yeah.
So that's why I thought about you.
I know that was not a very nice thing to post, but
You know what,
By not being on social media, but good and bad. I don't.
it was a rare posting from Marcelo. He doesn't post very often. All right. Well, we had the 25th anniversary of the hire date for Nick Bolts, and there's a party going on, which is where everybody is. Y'all all should have gotten an email from me earlier this week with this handout, I'm assuming, correct? Correct. Great. That's wonderful. And so let's pray. God of freedom and dignity, you created each person in your sacred image and called your creation good. As we engage difficult conversations about power, autonomy, and global influence today, grant us empathy, discernment, and courage. Guide us toward faithful responses that honor the inherent worth of every human being. May we embody compassion, advocate for justice, and work tirelessly for peace, inspired always by your liberating love revealed through Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Ian.
So, hey, Carolyn, I changed up, instead of doing a one-word check-in to a one sentence. And today is the last day that we're going to meet. So we're going to take a hiatus next weekend, which is Labor Day weekend. The following Sunday, so 2 weeks from today, is Rally Day. And so after worship, we're going to have a space where everyone gathers and you learn more about the internal ministries of Hope, including educational opportunities and the like. And then on the 14th, we'll begin the Fall Christian Ed series, which will more information will be about in the newsletter that comes out on September 1st. I talked a little bit about it already in the email that I sent, but I promise you, you will not go unaware of what we're going to cover there. The long and short of it is, unlike this class where, we're doing a book study or each class builds one upon another, what we're doing in the fall is every Sunday is packaged within itself. And so every Sunday is packaged within itself as we go through the fall. So, and each Sunday will kind of have its own theme. So on the 14th, we're going to have a focus on a local outreach ministry organization nearby in Cedar Park called the Christian Resource Center. And we're going to talk about ways in which we live out our mission and our ministry in service to our community. Okay. And then the next Sunday after that is another thing and another thing. They're all different Sundays. And we're going to cover that from the beginning of September Rally Day on the 7th, all the way through the Sunday before Thanksgiving, which is called Reign of Christ Sunday. And hello, Carla. So because today is our last day, I want us to do this one sentence check-in. So share your name, and when you hear the term public witness, what comes to mind? Does it feel hopeful, intimidating, confusing, or invigorating? What comes to mind for you when you hear the term public witness, or does something, cause just confusing work? So let's start with our peanut gallery, Kitty, then Carolyn.
Oh, you would. My name is Kitty. I think it all depends on the situation that the term comes up. So I don't know the answer.
Okay, great. Confusing.
Yes.
Situational. Great. Carolyn.
Well, I will say the first thing that comes to my mind is thinking of like Jehovah's Witnesses is what comes to my mind. But I know that's not what us Presbyterians are going to do. But the first time I heard the word, that's what.
Okay. All right. We're gonna come down. We'll go ahead out and we'll come around this one.
Okay. It means many things to me. Sharing your thoughts, being open about what you feel and would like to see. But in the same breath, I find it intimidating and sometimes almost futile. And that's the part that I have to get over with, is it worth the effort? Because that, for me personally, would be a huge effort, something not in my usual modus operandi. I don't go out and preach. I love discourse, discussion. So I'm still at the, what can we really do?
Yeah. I love your little slip there. You love Discord. That's great. Thanks, Al. Josh, and I would say for me, when I hear public witness, I think of boldness, and being able to, well, I'm going to unpack it further, so I don't want to give away the baby with the bathwater. All right, Raven.
I'm Raven. For myself, intimidating.
Intimidating. Good.
Honest with myself. I hope I'm living a life that, they see Jesus in me, but, yeah, being evangelical is intimidating. Also, though, it's funny that you got that paper right there, because that's the other side of it, from the James Dobson, to me,
Same word.
negative side. Not what Jesus taught.
Carla, public witness. I guess sharing something helpful and hopeful.
Marcelo, and what comes to mind is cultivating an image of yourself that reflects the values that you have, so that you don't have to say anything, but what you do and how you act is for people to see what you believe in, whether that's about Jesus or not.
Margie, yeah, I like what you just said. My initial thought was confusing, but in reading the epilogue and then your message today, it's definitely more hopeful.
Nancy, and my first thing is scary, actually say something. And it depends on the situation, but also it could be positive that I actually went through with it, that I actually said something. That's kind of positive, instead of going, oh my God, why didn't I say something? Good. But it's scary.
I mean, and certainly, right? Being bold does not mean without fear, right? I mean, it's still embracing, and still either speaking truth, standing up, being divinely defiant. All those things. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego may have still felt all those things. Especially knowing that what it could yield is being thrown into the burning fiery furnace, and there was courage in the midst of that, in the midst of what they were doing, and their form of public witness. I think when I think about public witness, and I really appreciate hearing the different perspectives from y'all, because my mind goes into a different place. And it's only because I think I'm a pastor, and the theme of my doctorate was in public witness. And so for the better part of a decade, when I think of public witness, I think about the ways in which I am to sort of like Marcelo, the way in which I am to bear witness to the goodness of God in Christ out into the world. That is not a private thing, that my faith is not something that I just, keep to myself or in the solitude of my home, but that faith is something that is practiced in public, and when and where there are injustices or the need for the goodness of God to be heard, to bear witness to them in those spaces. For some, I think part of the boldness or the intimidation of that comes from maybe some true realities of our calling. Like, I'm not called to be the one who stands on the corner and shouts good news. I'm not called to be the one, who goes to sign up to testify at public hearings at the Capitol or the council. That's not everyone's calling. Sometimes it's demonstrating public witness comes in other forms. It could be through letter writing. It could be having a copy. A lot of words have come out today. Having coffee with a companion, and engaging, not from a place of arrogance, but a place of wonder, humility, curiosity, and sharing in that regard, and count that as public. We wrapped up the book this week, and part of what we're going to do is we're going to not spend so much time going into the chapters. I want us to pivot and kind of work towards summing up the whole of this class and how it pivots us forward. But the last two chapters, Controlling Bodies and Global Holy War Comes of Age, were there any takeaways from those chapters, the epilogue, that has resonated with you that you want to share with the good of the group?
I'll just say on the first chapter, that's my life. I'm actually an obstetrician, and I was trained prior to and it's the changes, positive changes that occurred. And so I lived through in Army training the disasters that that policy enacted on my patients. And I got to live for most of my, I've been retired now for a lot of years. For most of my profession, I got to live in an environment where I could actually do what was the right thing to do with my patients, with what they wanted, what she wanted to have done. So I have experienced almost every one of those examples that were presented in my short training before the Roe versus Wade was enacted. And that is just chilling to me what's happened. And literally my colleagues now in Texas are reverting back to having to live in an environment where you really can't take care of the patient.
Where you can't what?
Can't take care of the patient, but what they want or what is actually medically indicated to save a life. I mean, it is literally, unquestionably, putting women at risk. And it's just chilling. So,
I'm going to press just a little further on you, Al, and thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that was a former career for you, and I appreciate you sharing that. think think through both this content or your career and the movement through the lens of your faith journey. And how did some of this resonate or not resonate with you as you encountered that chapter?
Oh, it's so ingrained in me, to do what is the right thing. And then I had tools to which to be able to do that. And so that challenged my ability to stay in the faith when my faith tells me that I should take care of the patient, the legal system tells me I can't. And, you know, I'm one of my problems is I'm a fixer. I like to get things done and I like to help people or whatever situation. I later was in administration for a decade, hopefully fixing things on a structure level. But it shakes my ability, but it's never the fault of my faith. That faith was never shaken because I felt only to do anything that I couldn't do legally. And so we all developed workarounds to try to make things happen that should happen and not cross the line.
Thank you for sharing that. How about anybody else from any takeaways or things that resonated with you from either chapter 11, 12, or the epilogue?
This might be a silly thing, but sort of a takeaway knowing that so many hospital systems are Catholic based and they negate doing certain things. It's if you move to a new town, check out most hospitals so you know where to go and where not to go.
Yeah, so kind of that intersection between the medical field and religious tradition, where kind of going back to what I was talking about with, you know, the oath to do no harm, to care for others, and yet there's a guidance to that and of that by, come on, Gloria, from City Principal C, by your religious faith. Yeah, absolutely. So now let's look broader, and I'm curious from y'all. I'm on the top of page 4. Christian nationalism isn't just about personal faith. It's an organized, well-funded global movement that seeks out power. This is the argument that Catherine Stewart has made and has provided evidence thereof. And so her book poses this question: how will people of faith respond? And the way that I want us to get to that are through number 5 there, Christian discipleship and public witness. Stewart gives a deep look at Christian nationalism strategies, but now let's explore together the 2 questions. And these are the 2 questions I want us to kind of be filters for us. And Marcelo has to leave because he knows I would call on him.
She has the answers.
Got the answer.
What? Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
The 2 questions is, how should Christian disciples respond, not with fear or withdrawal, but with faith, hope, and love? And should Christian churches engage in public witness? If not, why? If yes, what should it look like and why? And so you'll see number 6 has 2 questions. Number 7 has 2 questions. We're going to kind of take those 2 Christian disciples and Christian churches separately and explore that. But by way of kind of churning the butter in your brain, I want to ask you about, we started this book at the beginning of July. So for the better parts of 2 months, we have been making our way through this book. And my question for you to kind of churn the butter in your head is, I guess it's churned milk that turns into butter. To stir up the thoughts in your head, um, uh, how is it? In what way do you have a lens, a perspective now that is more attuned to the idea of Christian nationalism or the way in which it is expressed and manifested in the public? Has this book had an impact on you in that way that has brought some clarity? An example of that is Marty brought in a clipping from the newspaper and focus on the family founder, James Dobson, recently died. And here's a little article about it. And then a sub article is about Ken Paxton and the 10 Commandments that are supposed to be posted in the classrooms of all Texas schools. So in Marty's mind, I might say that, oh, okay, well, she's a little bit more attuned and aware to the movement of what's happening that maybe might not have been there 8 weeks ago. So that's what I'm asking you. Maybe it was there for you already and just been illuminated, but in what ways has this course illuminated you to be able to understand and see some of the machinations of Christian nationalism?
Well,
Go ahead.
I was gonna give an example. My brain is butter, but you know, it's all.
Doesn't matter.
Nothing innocent. I was at Starbucks the other morning and there was a young guy, maybe 24, 25 in front of me. And he had a t-shirt on that said Trail Life and had a picture of a person hiking. And I thought, oh, that's cool. So I asked him, what is Trail Life? And he goes, oh, well, it's a Christian, started out with that word, a Christian-led organization for kids to get them out and into the wilderness and all. And then, so of course I looked it up. And I think what I'm trying to say is this made me more aware of, I think, what the Christian national movement entails. Because if you look it up, it all of their tenets and everything that they're talking about, it points to me towards Christian nationalism. You know, and it even showed a kid, it kind of freaked me out. It showed a kid with his face all painted, and it looks like he's giving a Nazi salute. I swear, it's going like this. And so, and it seems like they have a lot of members, like 65,000 kids, and it's kind of almost looks like something that's parallel to the Boy Scouts with the Christian white, I think, recruiting. So I guess the answer is yes. It's helped make me aware of an organization that I might look at and say, wow, that's cool. It's getting kids out there. But then I have to also balance to make sure, well, maybe it's not really Christian nationalism. It's got a good basis on Christianity, but I don't know how they're maybe indoctrinating them or balancing that. So
Yeah, so what I heard you say, John, is and I think many of us might have gone that route as well. Oh, trail life. That's great. It's for kids, getting them out on the trail. It's faith-based, wonderful. And we could have left it at that without the tools that Catherine, I think, has helped us to kind of say, well, let me dive a little deeper here. Is there another kind of an agenda in addition, I mean, to the very good agenda of getting kids out of the city and into nature? That's great. Is there something else a little bit more here that's a part of a larger movement? Picking up on that, pregnancy resource centers have been, and I can't, pregnancy.
oh, pregnancy.
Has been the first time that I encountered a pregnancy resource center. It was in my first year of ministry, and we had a 14-year-old who had just given birth before I got there. And there were no resources that in that town that were available for her where she could have turned for maternal support, classes. I mean, and there was a sense of ostracization for a 14-year-old economically disadvantaged young lady, and who had her third child before she was 18. And so in my second year, I encountered this pregnancy resource center, and immediately I thought, wow, that's wonderful. A faith-based organization that's available to be there to support these women. And it's at that point when I brought it back to the church and had said, hey, let's get behind this, let's be partners with them. We could have really used that with this young lady, and that's when members of the church said, yeah, but that's not their agenda. That's secondary. And I think Stuart talks about it a little bit about the pregnant, a lot of the explosion of these pregnancy resource centers. The mask is, we'll give you a sonogram, we'll help you make the hard decisions, and we'll provide Pampers and classes and all this, that, and the other. But the end goal is to convince you to not terminate the pregnancy. And I've toured several of them, two of them here in Austin, that look like medical facilities, with lab coats and and this, that, and the other. They have a medical bed or examining bed. I don't know what you call it. Ow. Examination bed. All right. No. And then they have the real pictures of gestation and termination, and the goal there is the training of the volunteers or the people employed there is no baby gets aborted, no baby is terminated, and I think going back to what I said about Trail Life, again, that mindset is, well, that sounds like a great idea. And there are thousands of these pregnancy resource centers across the United States. There's tens of them throughout the city. But it is, I think Catherine Stewart can invite us to say, dig just a little bit more, right? Go to their website and do the what do we believe or the about us, read their story. If they're connected with Focus on the Family, that might give you some insight about their theology or their purposes of their nonprofit. Carolyn.
I will say, like, when you started talking to me about the public witness, as I was joining the outreach thing and all, committee and thinking about my position in education, I've always been one, I make my views public, like to the people close around me. And but as a voter, as a person that sees the rallies and all those things, I've always been scared to get involved in what I strongly believe about education because I worry about my job. But what I love about your goal and view about bringing some of it into our church is that it gives us a place and a group to be a part of that I don't feel alone, that I'm doing it because it's what I believe in my faith.
Good, thank you. And hold
I
on to
think,
that, 'cause we're gonna
yeah,
explore that a little bit more, and we'll get to some of these questions in
okay.
seconds. No, that's great. That's great. Thank you. What about, oh, look at that. You drove home to jump on with us. That's awesome. What about anybody else with regard to,
In the car.
In the car.
oh, in the car even? Big takeaway of the book, the way in which it's had an impact on you over the last couple of months.
I'll confess I didn't read it. I was going for
Okay.
and I think it's very interesting. I would feel very nervous about being a public witness because you can't, if you make mistakes or if you not follow what you're saying, then you run the risk of being, I don't know, attacked or. Right now, I guess I'm fearful because of what's happening in politics. And I am a citizen naturalized since 81, and I carry with me a copy of my passport in my wallet. So I like to public speak about what it feels like. I came to this country to study. I didn't cross the river, thank God. But I feel for how these politics, these new policies are making people afraid, even at the schools. They're going to come to our churches next. They're already at the hospitals. And I don't know. If I speak about this, people will probably not like it.
Misinterpreted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
right.
so the idea, a feeling of a cultural silencing. So
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say something in fear of a very real impact that it could have, especially
Yeah.
as someone who has migrated here.
Yeah, but today I felt I feel very good because a lot of people have told me how much they enjoyed my call to worship. So it's nice.
Good. It was good.
Raven?
It drove home what a huge machine the whole Christian nationalism movement is.
Yes.
To a degree that I knew it, but I didn't know it. And I'm really, again, well, my sister, deeply held beliefs, and they're all similar. In a small town in North Carolina, and she's a pediatrician, so she, 14-year-olds. Anyway, and child family. Anyway, yeah, dealing with that huge machine and wanting to go to a protest because I am the color and all that is safest, I guess, and an age that is, from whatever. And at the same time, dealing with these people who are dear to me, who truly believe these things they've been taught the last 20, 30 years since they got away from home. Because that's not how we were raised. Am I kind of making sense?
Yes, absolutely.
It's that dichotomy. Here's this machine. How can you believe in this? Here are the facts. And dealing with people on a one-on-one basis who are dear to me. In my work, which is with teenagers, one-on-one, many of whom are probably second-generation immigrants. Parents a lot of them came from India, China, Asian countries, to work at TAG. I'm open about being Christian. I'm also open about not being conservative. And hopefully I think they get it. They seem to like me. It's like, yeah, she's cool. She's okay. And that's my witness at this point. Because I'm not a good person. Let's go about the world. That's long, sorry.
No, I think this is, those, as you go through life and meet new people and go new places, sometimes you just get little pricklies that are like, this has explained to me what the little pricklies are, I think, and made me a little more aware of, particularly with the school. My kids are out of school, but with the schools, the charter schools, the private schools, the church schools, it's made me dig a little deeper. I have nieces and nephews who have children in the school systems, and some homeschool and some have charter schools and some do a hybrid thing. And I'm always curious about where they go and what they're teaching, because I know my family is, that particular family in Houston is very, very liberal, teaching their kids a very wide range of cultures, and they're very accepting of everyone. So when she told me she was going to a homeschool academy, and I wanted to check that out. Well, ends up she left there because she went to meet the new teacher and they had a big Trump banner on the. So now Molly's pulled her kids out of that environment and she's totally homeschooling. So because they're public schools where they are not great. But it's made me a little more aware. And when I do read things like when the chamber hosts a ribbon cutting at a new church K-5 school opening. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me read through that. And then I go to their website and it is word for word, you know, good news club kind of stuff. This is what we're teaching, good family values and all this stuff. Yeah, I could have guessed that from the church you're a part of, but still. It just makes you a little more aware. And to do a little more research, just to be educated. And I think that's helped.
Yeah, I think just having an inquisitive, investigative mind. And that my hope would be that in having that kind of a mindset may also minimize some of the boogeyman aspect. Like if we're feeling the spider senses, the spider tingle, like you were talking about, and we investigate it a little bit, we inquire a little bit, either it dissuades our assumptions or confirms them. It just kind of minimizes the boogeyman a little bit, and that's helpful for being able to name it. It's also helpful for being able to engage in conversations with folks who are our sister who lives in North Carolina, or our family who lives in West Texas, or wherever they may be, or the neighbor next door. The fact of the matter is um, um, we have people that we love that don't vote the way we do.
Yeah.
And God calls us to be in relationship. And I've always said not as doormats, but we have boundaries, great. But God doesn't call us to live in division and dividedness, divisiveness. And so we still have to strive as disciples to figure out how to do this thing. So let's look at a couple of these questions. Under 6, what do you think makes, and you can answer either one of these. Hey, Natalie, we got a seat over here if you want. One of 2 questions, you can answer either one. What do you think makes individual Christians hesitant or anxious about engaging in public witness? And second question, how might your own daily discipleship at work, home, or in the community serve as a form of public witness?
I think for A, we've kind of answered some of that, but I think, you know, initially we're worried that we're not gonna have all the answers. Or what we consider to be the right answers. And then you get home and go, oh, should have said,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. If you're in a situation where somebody's asking you something for to give opinion. So I guess fear of unsureness is part of that.
Yeah, I think I love the way you phrased that. The word that popped in my head when I heard you say that was humility. And just going into conversations knowing I don't have all the answers, right? And a buddy of mine sent me, and y'all, okay, I'm just learning about this weekend, so I'm not dialed into the tick face Instagram book thing, right? So there's this social media thing, and I don't even know the terminology for it. I just know it's like 1 on 20, one person versus 20 people. And what they do is we put Al as I don't want to pick on Al.
It's okay.
I don't want to pick on Al.
He's fine. Only put 10 against him though.
We put Carla at a table in the middle of a room, surrounded Carla, who is pro drive a senior, and it's surrounded in a circle of 20 people who basically are just rabid anti drive a senior. Those people are just lazy, you know. And so you have one person pitted against the 20 people in the circle. And the idea is each one of them gets a chance to come up and debate you for a time period. So it's 5 minutes, whatever.
Is this a certain app or something, or is this what they?
This is on YouTube, and there's channels of this, and some of the things where a pro-life person in the center of surrounded by avid pro-choice. And then another video is the reverse of that. One pro-choice person surrounded by avid pro-life people. And it just goes through this debate. Someone who might be a subject matter expert in that area. And so I can't stomach watching it because there's a toxicity there, and the system itself is not set up for humility, collaboration, engagement, honest assessment. And so when I was hearing you say, Carla, that's what comes to mind is humility. Like, I'm willing to engage in a conversation. I know that I don't have all the answers, but because I know that, it also puts me in a position to be able to listen a little bit more, to try to understand the perspective of Natalie a little bit more. It may not be that I change my mind in the end, but at least I'm honoring the truth that is within her, even if, you know, later on social media, I say that it's not a truth and it's a stupid position. No, I would not do that. But so that's the word. Humility is the word I heard, Carla, from you. What about anybody else from either of these two questions? John.
So I wanted to share an example, and I think it's really important how, like Gloria said, we need to speak up, and it's hard. In a situation like that, I mean, I know I used to play softball with a lot of guys that were really prejudiced, and we'd stand around after the game in the parking lot and drink beer and talk about it. And these guys were disparaging blacks and Mexicans, and I felt really bad because I didn't speak up. And so that makes them, I think, feel like you're part of that group. But a really example of, I think, a forum and a good example of how important it is to speak up is when Amendment 10A came out, and I think, what was it, 15 years ago or 20?
For our denomination?
Our denomination,
Okay.
yeah, which basically, you could probably explain it better, but allowed homosexuals or different people to become leaders in the church. I mean, that's kind of summarizing it. But the Westlake Church, the pastor thought, well, everybody thought like him, that we're not going to let any gays, anybody in a leadership position. And that's how everybody thinks. Well, he decided to have a forum where people could speak up and twist it, get everybody to believe the way he believed. So all the speakers that got up first were on his side. No, we can't let this happen. It's going to ruin the whole church. Finally, this guy who was a respectable dentist stood up and he said, what would Jesus say? And he said, I have a gay, whatever it was,
Family
member, and this is not right, and they should be spoken to. And then all of a sudden, all these people got up into the microphone behind him to say the same thing, and it threw it over the top to where that guy, what his goal was, he was going to take his church out of the PCUSA or
you got it.
I guess PCUSA. And it was remarkable. And he ended up getting thrown out, not thrown out, but he left because he didn't get what he wanted out of these people. And I think it was just a great example of, I think, how important it is. It may be hard and you need to have humility, but once those people spoke up, because if they hadn't, they would have thought, oh, that everybody believes the way he does, and we're gonna leave PCUSA. And it's a great example, I thought.
So
How important Republic.
simplicity is the word when you're with your friends.
Yeah.
And so there's a famous prayer of confession that talks about sins of omission and sins of commission, and sins of omission. And the things that we, and there are the commission things, the things that I did, and then there are the things that I didn't do that I should have done, and or that I'm complicit in. And you know, that person speaking up breaks the dam, is what I hear you saying. Austin Pride was this weekend, and their theme this year was silence equals death, right? And the idea of having the courage to be able to speak truth. And that person spoke truth in your example there, that opened the door and gave courage to other people to have their voices be heard, instead of being in fear that they would be shut down or silenced. That happened at Westlake. It just happened 2 blocks over at Bethany in the last 5 years. And so these are real world experiences that, yeah, can fracture the community and have some devastating consequences to them. Anybody else? What about Christian disciples? How might your own daily life serve as a form of faithful public witness?
Just that, speaking up, taking a deep breath and speaking up when you don't know if you're the only one in the room who feels that way, and you don't know what's going to happen if you are the only one in the room. What's the consequence going to be to you? And it seems like that's getting more and more, it's getting scarier and scarier. But it's been scary for a long time. We've had cancel culture for a long time. That did not come with the current administration. That came a long time ago with very much from the other side. So there's been this thing of, if you don't agree with me on this thing, you're evil and you shouldn't be allowed to, work or whatever it is that you're trying to do. But it's just getting worse and worse, and it's getting more and more dangerous, feels like. So I was at the parade last night, and I had to, I wasn't terrified or anything like that, but it was a little nerve-wracking.
Were there any protesters or any
Not that I saw.
anti-gay protesters?
I didn't know there was two. There was plenty of law enforcement, but I mean, it was very much needed just for the traffic. Traffic is always horrible. It was, so, and they had a bunch of, anyway, so yes, there were lots of police, and there were a lot of police escorts leading the parade and all this, but there were also, police cars and people marching in the parade from APD. And so, it was all quite positive, I would say. But going into it, I didn't know how it was going to be, and it just takes that one person who feels that they're being called to take care of this problem.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's pivot in the interest of time to the number 7 there, Christian churches. So the 2 questions here are, what risks arise when churches avoid public witness altogether? And what might public witness look like for Hope Presbyterian in ways that are clearly rooted in the gospel rather than partisan politics? What risks arise when churches avoid public witness altogether?
I think that risk of omission.
Yeah.
Is one of them. If you're not openly sharing or talking about particular views, then people just assume that you feel the other way personally, but also as an organization.
Well, I think that's a great example, because
Yeah.
a lot of my kids and their friends feel like they don't want to have anything to do with the Christian church in general. So we get thrown into that category. Oh, Presbyterian, that, oh, you're the far right Christian, you're the, and so us being silent puts us all into that category with far right.
If you don't say anything, then you're part of the problem.
Well, I think you can lose people. Like, I was searching for a church that would speak up about what's happening in the world, in our nation. And the first time I came, I never stopped coming back here. But I had visited a great, I grew up living Missouri Synod child, my dad was, and then on my side of family, I've broken with family, as you've alluded, in yours, just because I just can't take it anymore. But you keep me coming back because you care and you speak out and you pray. The prayers are just incredible. Along with the music and the messages, that's what, and this community, and just what you've all shared. I mean, I don't find that anywhere else, so.
Thank you.
I would not be here, like I said, if I visited, I didn't care whether you were Presbyterian or not, but yeah.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, and I will say that, in fairness, the community and the members of Hope Presbyterian Church also give me an opportunity to speak with boldness. And so, you know, if that's something that you've resonated with, it's in large part because the community has said we're emboldening, we're providing a space for that to happen. That's great. You know, a lot of folks will look at a pastor as the leader of the congregation, and in some ways that's absolutely true. But there's definitely been times where I've had to catch up or be led by the congregation to where they are when they said we're wanting a little bit more. And I've appreciated that.
Humility comes in,
Right.
that you have, and but like these people right here are just, yeah. But I've been looking.
Thank you. Carolyn.
I want to echo, I agree with what everyone said. If we're silent, then we're going to be lumped together with the national church. But I also want to say, if we're silent, then those who need us won't know that they're welcome. So if we don't speak up that we love and accept the LGBTQ community, they won't know that they're welcome at Hope. If we don't express some of these support, which my mom calls it political, they won't know that they are welcome, and we are just being complacent.
Yeah, I think, and I would add to that, you know, you mentioned the LGBT community, and that's true. You know, in the sermon today, I talked about the ex-evangelical, and you know, and that person that I met with is not a part of the gay community, but someone who was raised in an evangelical home and an evangelical Christian nationalist mindset, and was pretty much was led to believe, and this is what the person was telling me, but this is the reality of what the Christian church is. And as it has taken such prominent influence in society and in our nation, it just affirmed some of what this person thought of, that all Christian churches were the same, sort of what your children were saying. And I'm glad that the person felt confident enough to be able to visit with me and to realize, like, oh, what do you mean that there are other ways, there are other theological beliefs or traditions that don't all embrace that? And so the healing is, I mean, you were talking about the people who may not know they're welcome. I think about the healing that is possible for people who have been wounded, to be able to practice their faith. You know, there may definitely be people who are spiritual and would want to practice it, but the only way they've known to practice it is through the dominance of one particular form of Christianity. I think one of the fears or one of the risks that arise when churches avoid public witness is we end up getting the policies we have. I'm gonna try not to butcher the expression. Every machine produces a result the way in which it is constructed. I think that's something like that. You've heard something like that, right? So if you think about a car, right? A car has this is a machine, and the product is it advances the person who is in the car, right? But there is a driver. and that both can give instruction on how the machine is built, and there's a driver that also gives instruction on where the machine is to take you. And when we think about people who make policies on a national level, state level, as a expression of their particular religious viewpoint, Christian nationalist viewpoint, they are like the driver of that car saying, this is where we're going. And I think when a church avoids, like us, avoids offering a public witness in response to that, we are just being the backseat passengers. We are the people who got picked up in the Uber rather than being the Uber driver. Woo! I just made that up. And I worry about that, not only for the folks who may feel excluded and not know that healing is possible as they practice their faith, but then also the way in which society itself gets shaped. So the humility part of a Christian church, like Hope, may be we do feel a call to speak truth to power and in public, and to do so in a way that is not projecting allegiance to the way we believe. And I think there comes a difference between a church that might be Christian nationalist and a church like Hope in particular, that we're striving for a society where our faith would lead us to strive for a community, a society, a nation where there is equity and equality and a rights-focused social aspect of this, versus our faith leads us to go out and to build a machine in the image of God and then expect conformity to it. I would think that part of what we would strive for as a community of faith would be not for everyone in society to conform to what we believe, but to ensure that there is a just aspect of the shared living that we all have to do. We cannot live in an island. We all have to live. Even people who live on 50 acres of land and cannot see their neighbors still have to go into town. They still get their mail delivered. UPS shows up. Someone's got to do something. They have to engage. We all are connected to this thing. And how is it then that is the most just way that we can live in a society together, where we all individually have the right to practice our beliefs, our faith, our ideologies, and also not compel others to subscribe to it. That sounded like a little pulpit soapbox. I apologize.
Oh, that was an Uber part.
Looking forward, friends, I want you to think about the years ahead. What kind of public witness do you believe the church will need most in our world? And I want you to think about one word or phrase that you would use to describe the spirit in which Christians should practice public witness. And I talked at the beginning of the class that we are doing every Sunday throughout the fall is a standalone Sunday, even though they're all under one umbrella, called Mission Matters. And just as a tie-in to this class, the second Sunday in that, so the 7th is Rally Day. The 14th, we'll have a guest from the Christian Resource Center. And then on the 21st, we have a guest from Texas Impact who will be here to provide us information on how we individually can practice our faith through advocacy, ways in which we might consider being the driver of the Uber, right? And so she'll give us, some ideas about like writing letters, contacting elected officials, etc. Okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Deacon Kosachata, would you be so kind as to lead us in the closing prayer?
Okay. God of truth and justice, we have wrestled today with complex and challenging realities. Empower us to resist systems that diminish your image in others. Strengthen us to speak prophetically against oppression cloaked in religious or legal language. Send us forth informed, engaged, and courageous, always grounded in your love and guided by your call to justice, compassion, and humility. Through Christ who calls us all toward freedom and truth, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Rally days for the next movement. It's 2 weeks from today. So enjoy Labor Day, regroup, and we'll see you at Rally Day in 2 weeks. Bye. Oh, she left. Wow. She was like, boom, she's out. Bye, Carolyn.